Great. Thank you for that, Mike. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Shawn Slack. Shawn is the Director of Information Technology and Chief Information Officer for the City of Mississauga.
Great, thank you. Everyone hear me? We're good to go? Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Mississauga. I'm going to tell a bit of a story about designing cities with the smart cities lens for sure, but it's about people and place and then how smart city can factor into that. So a smart city is one that does plans for people in place. And so this is our celebration square on Canada Day. And this was a planning exercise. You can see we've got over 100,000 people involved in our Canada Day celebration. Prior to the redesign and development of our celebration square, there would have been about 20 people. It just was not a place that was welcoming, didn't have the right amenities, and really wasn't programmed like an outdoor community center. And this really is about transformation and city building. So digital transformation is sort of the terminology that we're talking about today around smart city in the context of smart city. And the transformation it really is changing how government looks, at technology. And it used to be technology was a back office thing, but now it really is about city planning. And when we embarked on our Smart Cities Challenge and in developing a Smart Cities Master Plan, what we found was that it was important to have our chief building official, our head of planning, economic development, culture. These were the people that needed to be at the table to help us determine what was the right plan for the future. So it's a city building exercise. Interesting story. So this is Celebration Square, and so it's water in the summer, ice in the winter. When we first implemented this, that water feature was intended just to look at, but shortly after, several hundred people showed up in their bathing suits, and so we had to change it to being chlorinated. And it is an amazing water feature, and through the summer, it is packed full of people who are swimming. We just never anticipated that. And I think that the learning behind that is people will decide what's right. And I think, so this is where civic engagement and listening and planning, but also being able to change and adapt to use of space. And in an ever disruptive way, people will determine. And in this case, this has become a water feature. It's on the other side of it has become soccer fields, and this really has changed our downtown. So the city, so Hazel McCallion was our mayor for a long time, 30 plus years, and she really was the city brand. And so we went through an exercise with her, her retirement, with Bonnie Crombie coming on and being our mayor. And so we went through a city branding exercise, and really it was formed around the people in the place. And one of the biggest things was about the diversity in languages. And when we get into the Smart Cities Challenge, we'll talk a bit about language of choice being very important. So there were three key ingredients to our brand strategy. One was being a welcoming world culture. So once in a while you'll hear, the roar of an airplane over top or a jet over top of this building. Pearson Airport is the second largest inbound airport in North America. This is our Pier 21. This is where immigration is happening, right here. And so we need to think about what that means. It's a huge opportunity to the Greater Toronto Area, and we really have to think about how we welcome people, how we integrate people into our society so that they can be successful and succeed. Naturally enriching, and it was interesting that the white spaces on the previous speaker's map were white or not as much broadband. But city building is about creating these public spaces, open spaces, that does enrich sort of the environment and what you're really trying to achieve as a family, but also as a city. And inspiring possibilities, and this is the one that was really important when we talked about the Smart Cities Challenge and engaging the public, was really looking at innovation, economic development, entrepreneurism, but also those at risk. And you've heard that a couple times today. When I started talking about the Smart Cities Challenge, we really are focusing those that are at risk, youth, and the immigrant population. So our Smart City Challenge, and there's a bit of a running joke around, Shawn took the A and the I out of Smart City. And the running joke is, and it came up actually, in the financial model, how do you finance a smart city? And so it's through partnerships. We like to say you have to buy a vowel. And so our partners are going to come to the table, and actually through our process, I'd have to say, the federal government did a great thing with the Smart Cities Challenge because it raised a conversation across Canada. And that was really important. And industry really stepped up. But industry is also redefining itself. There's companies that were never in this industry before that are now smart city companies. And so it's interesting to watch how industry responded, but how interested they are in participating in this. So we went to our council, similar to what Toronto had described, in the spring of 2017, and said the federal government's made the announcement, the Smart Cities Challenge is coming. We want to participate. We proposed, an approach for the city of Mississauga, and they agreed with that approach. And so we started our planning and internal conversations around the level of engagement, areas of focus. But the fundamental thing we did say is that a smart city is for everyone. Whatever we do will be citywide and will affect everyone. So smart city, so that's your physical, digital, and human interaction. And lots of definitions out there. But the bottom line is a smart city is being designed for its citizens and for the people. This is a bit of a scorecard. So cities across Canada, and actually in the early discussions with the federal government about smart cities, one of the things I'd raise is we have a good story to tell already. Cities across Canada are doing really well with automation and use of technology. We just don't tell our story very well. So that's the other benefit of a forum like this, but also the Smart Cities Challenge. It gives us a chance to say what we're doing. And it raises Canada's profile, and it makes us a great place to invest. And I think having economic development like in Toronto at the table, it's a smart thing to do because there's organizations out there that are looking for opportunity to invest, and we're going to create a ton of opportunity through this. So much like Toronto, we've got lots of connected things, connected trucks. Actually, last year, 2017, we did the equivalent of 709 years of public Wi-Fi. So we have public Wi-Fi in all our facilities, public spaces, some of our parks, Celebration Square. So if each of you used just an hour, in 1 year, we did the equivalent of 709 years of service. So I like to say that's actually more service than transit delivers. Bottom line is a critical service, and people expect it. So early 2017, Justin Trudeau made the announcement, and there are several different categories. In Mississauga, we are actually in the $50 million category. A lot of cities, the submissions are in. They'll be posted shortly, so we'll get to see who's actually in the competition across Canada. But if you think about the order of magnitude, $50 million, it's a pretty significant investment. But the United States ran their program. Columbus, Ohio won, and it was $50 million. They had $400 million in in-kind contributions from their partners. So it does drive this whole partnership piece. And you'll see later on in the presentation, talk a bit about our partners and where they stand on this as far as contributing and actually helping drive the innovation. So if you didn't know the timelines, we're still fairly early in the process. So a couple weeks ago, we all pushed that button to make our submission. So sometime early this summer, they'll do the short list. So in each of the categories, so the city of Mississauga, if we are shortlisted, we'll be shortlisted with 5 other cities across Canada in the $50 million category. And each shortlisted organization will get $250,000 to do a business case. The business case will be submitted in the winter of 2018 or early 2019. And then next summer or early spring, we hope to see an announcement. An announcement. So in addition to doing the challenge, we're also doing a master plan. And what we've done is we've taken the federal government's framework, the 6 constructs, from that framework, and we're doing a master plan as well for the city. Because when you do your submission, you got to focus on 2 areas. So we wanted to have a master plan that looked at all 6 areas for the city. So those are the 6 areas of focus: safety, economic opportunity, mobility, healthy living and recreation, empowerment, inclusion, and environment. And through the process, you have to narrow it down to 2 and then come up with some ideas and some goals around 2 of those. So we went through some public engagement, and we also brought on the Canadian Urban Institute. So we actually thought, you know what, this is a city planning exercise. So we borrowed the assistance of CUI to come in and help us go through a review of actually all of our master plans and our strategic plan, but also help us with our engagement sessions to make sure that we had good alignment across the corporation. And we have about 15 master plans that are completed, and there's a series of other ones. And so these are city building planning exercises. So whether it's My Malton, Shaping Ninth Line, Reimagining the Malls. So there's a really good example of, a mall is going through transformation. Purchasing things online is really having a big impact on stores. And so we're going through an exercise to figure out what is the future of the mall. Vision Cooksville, making room for the middle. It's a huge, huge part of what we're going after here. So we went through and we found alignment. And actually for each one of these master plans, we took all of the actions in those and aligned them to the 6 objectives or the 6 areas of focus from the federal government's Smart Cities Challenge. So engagement, so the announcement was made early December 2017 with the criteria. So they came out and said, here's the criteria. Engagement is an expectation. And we did lots of engagement leading up to this, but we wanted to be specific because the engagement really had to focus in on those areas of focus and engaging people around which of the 2 mattered. So we had both public information sessions, and we also had industry information sessions, and then we did a traveling roadshow as well, and then we also had an online engagement. And through all that, we ended up with about 265 points of engagement, where we were able to determine what are the 2 areas of focus that were important, what ideas we should be focusing on, and then who our potential partners are. And the industry meetings were quite important in this part of the process. So through that, what we heard were these were the 3 of the 6 I showed earlier. These were the 3 top. And it's funny, mobility actually was talked about a lot because the autonomous car is very topical. Like, a lot of people are talking about the autonomous vehicle and how disruptive that's going to be, what it means to industry. But when we listened to what people thought the priority was, empowerment and inclusion rose to the top. And I'll talk a bit about some of the measures that we have to really demonstrate why that's so important. But economic opportunity was a close second. So this is our Smart Cities Challenge, our bold idea that we submitted on the 24th. And the title of it is Solving for Social Resilience. And it really is about tying that back to opportunity for those that are at risk, youth, newcomers, and really having the communities are vibrant, a place where people connect. And actually, connect is an important thing in many ways. But we actually have designed what's called a social resilience index. And that index has 3 key things in it. It's called Connect, Adapt, and Succeed. And we're working with the University of Toronto. And they're actually helping us build that resilience index. And that's going to be our measure and how we actually determine whether or not we're being successful in our plan. So back to what I said right up front, though, is that the smart city is for everyone. So this is our story. I'll run you really quickly through what we're doing, just so you get a sense of what it looks like. So there's several components, and at the end I've got a summary, but the components start at a very granular scale and go up to citywide. The first thing is the kit, and this is the digital divide piece. So we worked with the United Way, and they did a study across the Greater Toronto area, and it's called the Opportunity Equation. And within the Opportunity Equation, they identified some pretty key metrics I'll show later on, but really showed there were a lot of people, and it came up earlier, who don't have access to technology. They do not have a computer, they don't have the internet, and the numbers are actually staggering. And so the kit is simple. We're going to get 5,000 laptops, tablets with the internet, and we're going to give it to those people who are at risk. We're going to use our partners, both the Region Appeal, Health, Social Services, and the United Way. They're going to deliver it into the homes. These are people who are isolated. They don't feel safe in their own community. They've immigrated here or are at risk for various reasons, and they just don't have the resources, and they don't have the opportunity, and they don't have the confidence to come out of their house. So we're going to take the kits to them. On those kits, access to services, all the social programs, United Way, the food banks, everything they need to be successful will be on that kit, and they'll have a person either their caseworker or someone, a buddy or someone they can connect with, and that's how they will start to engage in their community, is with the kit. So this is Steve. Steve actually works at the airport, and by the way, these characters, it's not really Steve. These are actually right out of the United Way report. So this is a real scenario. Steve's trying to retrain, can't afford a laptop, can't afford the internet, and he's really struggling. We're going to give Steve this laptop. He's going to do his online training. He can upgrade his skills. He can get a better job for him and his family. The connection. So we're looking at these mini hubs throughout the city, about 500 of them. And these are digital screens in both the public, outdoor, and indoor spaces throughout the city, all with the same access to the same services that are on the kit, all voice enabled. So walk up, ask it a question, where do I get? It's in your community. There'll be Wi-Fi around here. This is a work location as well. And so for an active community, you can come here, you can get services, and the biggest thing is you don't need a device to participate. So this is the digital divide once again. You can walk up, no phone, and still participate, access services in your community. And the other thing that was really important is we're pushing this way into the community so that in the community where you feel safe, you can find access to these services. So this is Agata. She's a very busy mom. She does a lot of traveling around with her kids. She needs to stay connected to stay successful, so we're giving her lots of opportunity to stay connected throughout her community. And at the end, I'm going to talk a bit about the live, work, play, which did come up in the previous presentation. This is about having choice. The next level up is the hub. So the city's got about 100 hubs today. We're going to build another 100 more. And what we're going to be doing is putting these hubs out into the community, but we want our partners. So our partners are Cisco, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, all the other companies in Mississauga, Bell, Rogers. And we're going to say, look, these hubs are your home. We need you to tell your workforce that they can work here. And what it does is it gives the businesses in Mississauga a competitive advantage. Because if I live in Streetsville, and I know that I can work in Streetsville, and my corporation supports that, I'm going to have a better live, work, live, play scenario, because I can walk to work, I can bike to work, or I can take a bus. And I can stay close in my community. And that's actually going to drive innovation and a community around that whole hub area. So you've got the kit, the connect, and the hub, all sort of creating that ecosystem at scale. This is all part of the community. And the important thing is, Steve, who is isolated, can't find work, comes out to a connect, builds his confidence, he goes to a hub, he meets other people, there becomes opportunities for jobs that way for Steve. So this is Akua. So his story is educated, new to Canada, does no experience in Canada. His resume is being screened out. He's not getting opportunity. So for Akua, what it means is he can meet people. He can go to the hub. He can talk to people who are looking for employees. Bottom line is, if you talk to any tech office in Mississauga or Toronto, there's a war for talent. It's a global war for talent. So Akua is an educated, experienced person, just not in Canada. And our current mechanism for getting people into jobs screens with guys like Akua out. We want Akua to get a job. And the people with the businesses in Mississauga want people with skills like Akua. So we're going to make the connection, and he's going to be successful. The last piece of this really is the community, and that really is taking it and using district Wi-Fi to connect the entire community and all the amenities that make it what it is. Streetsville, Malton, Meadowvale. There's 23 communities in Mississauga defined this way. It'll be a digital ecosystem. And so the kit, the connect, the hub, and the community all become part of that ecosystem. And then that gives people choice. And the example I use is Hotels.com. If you consider the city of Mississauga as one large digital ecosystem, someone like Amira can say, look, I've got to meet someone for a meeting today. Where should I go? And they can pick the amenities. And so the hub has WebEx. I'm going to go to that hub. It's close to this area here. That's where I'm going to work. So Amira can be successful, and she can use the amenities that helps her. The last component, and it came up earlier, is the ride. And the ride is the express routes within Mississauga, the blue buses. So every express route, number one, will have Wi-Fi on the bus, so you can stay connected between the hubs, between the connects, and between these 23 communities. They're also going to be given priority on advanced traffic management system. So as the bus is going between community, you're going to get the fastest ride possible, because as the bus approaches the traffic lights, that bus is going to get priority and get you to destination faster. But within the community, there'll be other active transportation options. And again, part of the digital ecosystem, e-bike will just be another amenity that you can choose, and it'll actually make it a better experience, because you're going to have confidence that whether it's the bus or the e-bike, you know you're going to be able to get to your destination. So finally, and you know, technology really was sort of the last bit of the conversation. So with all this, you know, all the good things that we can do to help people be successful, what types of technologies can help us? So the digital signage is actually a pretty important component, because that helps us achieve the digital divide. You can interact, you can get services and information without a device yourself. Voice-first technologies, like the Amazon Echo type capabilities or the Google, so Just Ask or Siri. Artificial intelligence, and actually Amazon has really stepped, they really want to partner us on the artificial intelligence piece and help us with the digital signage, building out that AI piece. Augmented reality, another great partner. Sheridan College has stepped up. They want to help us with some of the augmented or mixed use reality, and there's some examples of that certainly for public in the cities. And then again, open data, so using our open data portal. Earlier on, I showed the slide that shows what we're doing today. We've got some environmental sensors out there. We publish them as open data. We just partnered with the University of Toronto. We're getting 50 more. Publishing as open data has been pretty interesting. When we put the first data out, University of Windsor, Dalhousie both came in, did a whole study on it. It was pretty interesting what they found in their research. So the data actually is, you know, it's been called the oil. But it can drive innovation, and it can give you things that you never thought you could have before. So we're on the cusp of something really big is how we look at this. And so these are the 23 communities that make up Mississauga. This is the digital ecosystem, the kit, the connect, the hub, the community, the ride, all the technology, all connected as one large ecosystem. Everyone in the city is going to benefit. And when I presented this to council, one councillor talked for 5 minutes but never asked a question. And all he said was, if we don't do this, we won't succeed. Because cities around the world are competing for talent. And we have to be the talent. This is our contribution to the tech corridor, the Kitchener-Waterloo-Toronto tech corridor. This is how we can contribute. We can make the city of Mississauga a place where people can succeed and where we can attract talent. And so that's why this was so important. So here are the two key metrics. We have to prepare for a mobile workforce. And so bottom line is 75% of the workforce will be mobile by 2020. So the workplace is changing. You see this, you know, WeSpace, Flex Day, all these things are changing how people see work. They want, you know, they want to work in a restaurant, they want to work in a park. They're mobile though. So this idea of using the hubs as home for the tech companies and the other industries in Mississauga means that people have choice. And it means when SOTI publishes a job and says, come work in SOTI, they can say, by the way, if you live in Mississauga, we support you working in your community. That gives them a competitive edge. The metric on the right is the scariest one, and this is from the United Way, and that's that opportunity equation. Since 1970, the middle income has declined by 40%, and the low to very low income increased by 50%. This is the group that's isolated. They're isolated, they need opportunity. So our entire goal is to shift this. Help people who are isolated, need opportunity, need jobs, because if we don't change this, it's going to get to be a bigger problem. It's not unique to Peel or Mississauga. It's like this across Canada. That's why we think our idea can be transferred across the country. And if you look south of the border, there's some pretty big US cities that have gone too far, and this is a big problem. So we're going to provide that equitable and easy access to opportunities that help people succeed. Keyword. We're going to connect youth, newcomers, entrepreneurs, that whole mobile workforce and startups in the community. It's interesting, we made a connection with Brazil and ESPM, which is the university in Brazil, and they're very interested in working with us as well. So we've made sort of an interesting global connection there. And we're going to bridge that digital divide. So I think one of the ones that is probably of all these points on here is completing communities. And back to my point at the beginning of this presentation about this really is a place-making exercise for people. And so we've got to make sure that it's not about the technology. It's about creating places and environments that are appealing, that feel safe, that provide opportunity for people to succeed. And someone that can work in the community will find that live, work, and play and quality of life will make a big difference. So we're not in this alone. So these are some of our partners. So the Region Appeal around some of the services they provide. United Way is a major partner in this for us because there's so many programs and services around employment and helping those at risk, newcomers. So some great partnerships between the region and United Way. The food banks, the conservation authorities, the BIAs, University of Toronto, amazing partner in this, as well as Sheridan. I heard, Toronto Board of Trade, Mississauga Board of Trade as well. Very interested in this. They're going to be a key partner. The Salvation Army, and actually Glen Forest STEM, actually the students came and presented their blockchain idea, which was quite interesting. So they stay engaged with us as well. And then supported by industry, and I had a streaming list of the industry players, but the list is just too long. And so we asked industry to sign up and actually sign a piece of paper, non-commercial binding. That was the federal government's rules, fine. The list is super long. And so great partners. It's pretty exciting to have them on board. So that's basically it. Just a summary, the kit, the connection, the hub, the community, the ride, and the technology coming together to solve for social resilience. Thank you.